This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Because he wanted to place himself in the context of, the last 40 years or so of comedy. And I began to write these kind of historical things, placing him in exactly that context. So it became half autobiography and half biography. So we decided to call it a sort of biography. And that was what it was called forever afterwards. And then around 2004, 2005, he had a new idea, which was that he'd always wanted to sort of cap his career with a Broadway show, a one-man Broadway show along the lines of Lily Tomlin's wonderful The Search for Intelligent Life in the Universe. And he'd spoken to me about this also and said that, he might want my help on it. So when he finally got time to do this Broadway show, we would put the sort of biography out simultaneously, and the success of one would feed the success of the other. And alas, that never came to be, and so the book didn't come to be while he was alive.
I guess something I'm also curious about is what it's been like for you to finish this book with him not being here to finish it with you.
Well, on one level, it's sort of it's a co-writer's dream because you get to make all your own editorial decisions, which is quite good. But the other thing, honestly, was that I was terribly affected by George's death and by the loss of that wonderful voice, and I mean voice in all its aspects. So going back and listening to these often quite wonderful tapes, which were very free form, they were much less interviews than they were just conversations about everything to do with comedy and to do with his approach to it, was just very, very saddening, of course. And the way I summed it up to somebody recently was, I said I wasn't a ghostwriter on this book, I was the writer for a ghost. And his presence was very strong in all those cases. And sometimes I'd get so engrossed in sort of shaping these conversations that it would seem like I was doing them with him in the room. But I think all of that's, helped give it its authenticity, because what I really wanted to do more than anything was to capture that voice and fulfill what I think his purpose was in beginning this book in the first place, which was less to give an account of his life than to give an account of his art and how he got there, and how at every stage that evolved into something always opening further and further into genuine art and genuinely artistic craft. So the book is very much about his growth as an artist, although obviously, as you know well, there are episodes which are about the other aspects of his life. So to the degree that I've fulfilled that aim of his, I would have to say this has really been a labor of love more than anything.
And it's so interesting because one of the things I've been grappling with since he's been gone is how to represent him in the world that lives up to his almost impossible standards that he held himself up to in his art, and also getting that he's not here and having to hold that tension between those two things, and at the same time really knowing, especially those of us who were close to him, how impeccable he was.
Yes, indeed. The other way I thought of it was, those magnificent pieces of music like Schubert's Unfinished Symphony that other people had to finish. And you can only guess at what would have been the result, if he'd been here to do it himself. But you do the best and you make the best music you can. But there were some surprises, weren't there, Kelly, in this book for you?
Yeah, it was fascinating. I reading it, of course, there was the narrative that I know about my father's life already and that I've grown up into. And then there were these little other areas where there were little surprises and moments that I got to learn stuff about my dad and stuff that probably, I'm guessing, we would have never talked about and would have never come out in our conversations. I mean, little things and big things, but I mean, one of which is like even how much influence his brother, my uncle Patrick, had on his life.
Right.
And reading that chapter and really getting it, like, wow, I didn't get that before, and then my father becomes this more whole, richer human being in my eyes.